Welcome to Cake Playground, where it's all about the fun. This lesson is on how to make Belle's dress from Beauty and the Beast. It'll please any little princess in your life. It features some swags, tassels, crown, and gum paste rose. We're going to be using an 8-inch and 6-inch cake frosted and filled about 4.5 inches high each. Both cakes need to sit on cake boards made of cardboard. Trim the cardboard away so it's flush against the cake. We're going to sculpt the bottom 8-inch tier so that it looks like a skirt, like this. So we're going to use a 6-inch cardboard on the top, and we're going to carve about halfway down the cake using a serrated knife, from here to here. You'll notice that I don't start immediately at the 6-inch cardboard. When I'm carving, I just do a little bit at a time, because once you've cut the cake, you can't go back. So start a little bit and then carve deeper. Once I've gone around the first time, I go around again now at a deeper level to cut off more cake, and it should ultimately look like this. And then remove the cake round. If you see any little spaces that need trimmed off, do that. Now apply a thin layer of frosting to the exposed cake and smooth it like you did before when you originally frosted the cake. It should look like this. I'm using commercial satin ice fondant in white and yellow. To tone down the yellow, I'm mixing it with some white. And then I'm going to mix again to get even a lighter shade of yellow. So the darker shade will cover the cake, and the lighter shade will be used for the swags and ribbon roses. Both the 8-inch and the 6-inch cake will be covered with the darker fondant. This cake's about 4.5 inches high, so I'm showing here how I measured out the correct amount of fondant. To get a more detailed lesson on how to cover a cake with fondant, visit CakePlayGround.com for a more detailed class on covering a cake with fondant. Put the 8-inch cake onto a covered, sturdy cake board. We're going to use boba straws to provide support for the 6-inch layer. Put the boba straw all the way into the 8-inch cake, pull it up slightly, and mark the level of the cake. Pull the straw out and cut where you've marked. You see it's at the height of the cake, and then cut the other straws to match. Put the straws back into the cake, as I've shown here. Put a little bit of frosting on top to help stick the cakes together. Now you're going to place the 6-inch cake on top of the 8-inch cake. Press down to level the cake and stick it to the 8-inch cake, like this. To make sure the swags on the skirt are even, we're going to make a paper template to mark where the swag should go. So take a strip of paper, wrap it around the bottom part of the skirt, and cut it so that the ends of the paper are flush. Remove the paper and fold it in half 3 times as I've done here. This will make 8 sections. Mark the paper using a circle cutter. In this example, I'm using a 4-inch circle cutter, and then cut out where you've marked. This will make the template for your swags. Wrap the template around the bottom part of your cake and hold in place with a piece of tape. Mark with a toothpick about 2 inches up from each of the points on the template. To make the swags, roll the lighter colored fondant about 1/8 inch thick, cut with the 4-inch cutter, and then cut the circles in half. Fold down the top and curve them to make 8 swags like this. Attach the swags at the points that you marked on the cake. Put a smallest amount of water at the points and attach the swags at the points. Notice here the swag goes all the way to the bottom, on the bottom, and matches up with the points. It's really important that the swags on this first level are even, so that the rest of the swags are even as well. Continue around the rest of the cake, make sure your swags are even top and bottom so that they look like this. As we continue around the cake, adding more swags, the circles get smaller. So this is how we add the next step. Make sure the bottom of the second layer is tucked in to the top of the first layer. And continue on with your third layer, making sure as you go that each one of the swag levels are even all the way around. Before I finish this skirt, I'm going to fill in the empty space between the 6-inch layer and the 8-inch layer with some of the darker fondant, just to make sure that you can't see the empty space. As the swags get toward the top, it becomes a little bit tighter. So in some ways you have to kind of squish the swags in to cover the space. Just take your time and have some patience. When you're done, the swag should look like this. Next, we're going to add some tassels and roses to the skirt, like this. We're going to take one of the smaller circles and cut it into quarters, and then fold the tassel like this. We're going to attach the tassels starting at the bottom and working up. And it's going to be 5 tassels working its way up to the top of the cake to cover the empty space between the swags. And then at the top, we're going to add a ribbon rose. To make the ribbon rose, you're going to cut one of these small fondant circles in half and then wrap the fondant along the straight edge like this, and then snip off the end. To make the swag for the bodice, I cut a strip of fondant about 10 inches by 3 inches and used some boba straws to mark 3 levels on this swag. Then I removed the straws and continued to shape the 3 levels on the swag so that it looks like this. Now we're going to attach this long swag so it matches up with the center of the cake. So measure it around and then attach it to the cake halfway around like this, and place a little bit of water and use your paintbrush to glue the swag to the sides of the cake. And so it should look like this. Attach another ribbon rose to the center where the swags meet. You're going to need to flatten it a little bit, and this swag rose will be a little bit larger than the ones on the skirt. I used gold luster dust to add highlights to the roses and to the tassels. And then I added a crown and a red gum paste rose. Come to CakePlayGround.com for lessons on the gum paste rose, the gum paste crown, and more detailed lessons on how to do the swags, tassels, and roses. At Cake Playground, it's all about the fun.